Now to a developing story. A huge figure in the Southern Baptist circles fired over the way he handled a sexual abuse allegation. Matt Howerton live with details just coming into the newsroom. Matt?
Yeah, is the unearthed comments made by Patterson in 2000 took many of his followers by surprise this month, suggesting a woman turned to God for help in an abusive relationship instead of police. Tonight, Southwestern Theological Baptist Seminary fired Patterson due to how he handled a sexual abuse allegation at another seminary in North Carolina in 2003. At that time, according to the Washington Post, a female student says she was allegedly encouraged by Patterson to not report the assault and instead forgive her assailant. Patterson was the president of that seminary at the time. Tonight, the Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary says it reviewed details surrounding that complaint and ultimately decided to fire Patterson, who was demoted from president to president emeritus recently. In a written statement, the seminary said in part, SWBTS denounces all abusive behavior, any behavior that enables abuse, any failure to protect the abused, and any failure to safeguard those who are vulnerable to abuse. Patterson is supposed to deliver a sermon to about 10,000 people at the Southern Baptist Convention's annual meeting in Dallas next month. It's not clear if he will take the stage still. In the newsroom, Matt Howerton, Channel 8 News.
All right, Matt, thank you. Now we'll talk about